Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is the Town of Harwich Finance Committee meeting. It's Tuesday, March 26, 2024 at 6 o'clock, and we are in Town Hall in the small meeting room. This evening, we have Dana DaCosta and Mark Kelleher participating remotely. I'll make that note. Here with us in Town Hall is Bob McCready, Michelle Galucci, Dan Torek, and Mark Amoraz. We do have a quorum, and I will declare that. Now, anybody in the audience who has any intention of recording this meeting, we are recording it ourselves, but if you're intending to do that, please advise the chair at this time. And I see none. I will note in the audience that we have Kathleen Barrett, our finance director, is with us tonight, and Scott Norm returned after last week's public hearing. So welcome to you both. Okay. And I'll call the meeting to order. Did everybody get a copy of the minutes of March 21st?
Yes.
Yes.
Would someone like to make a motion to accept those minutes?
I will move to accept the minutes of March 21st.
I second.
Okay, it's moved by Bob and seconded by, I'm just taking some notes here. That was you, Mark, right?
Yes.
Okay. To approve the minutes of March 21st. Any discussion? I think Judith did a good job on these, a lot to it. Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, going to do it one by one. Mark?
Aye.
Abstain. Abstain, you weren't there, right?
Aye.
Michelle? Bob?
Aye.
Dana? Mark?
Aye.
Chair is an aye. Okay, so, if you're wondering why I'm taking notes, sometimes the recording doesn't work, and when we get to these votes, it's very important to get them right. So it takes a couple minutes just to write these things down. Let's see. And abstain. Okay. So, excuse me, let's talk about what we know that's new. One thing we know is new is Dana provided us with a copy of our votes. And any comments on the votes? He's done this historically. Hopefully you all read those. I don't know if you've given any feedback to Dana, if there's any required or not. I gave him a little bit of feedback, but Dana, thanks for keeping up with this. I think after this meeting, we'll probably want to pass the next version of this on to the staff so that, you know, in the selectman's office, so they can start factoring it into the warrant. Okay?
Yeah.
Did anybody have specific comments on this?
I did not. I did read it. Thank you very much for getting it done, Dana. And I did not have any comments.
Okay.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is send this back forward if there are no objections, and then the next batch I'll send to you guys first, and then we can send it.
That's fine. There's plenty here for them to get started with.
Right, yes.
Okay? So if you could send this on tomorrow. Okay.
Excuse me, Dana?
Yes,
Dana, did you get the correction I sent you on 100,000 versus 400,000 on Bank Street?
yes.
I think it was 32. You had it in for 100,000. The CPC article is 400,000.
Right.
I did email you. See?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
That's what you get for having humans with us.
Well, you're more than a human. Put this all together.
Okay, I'll also note that Kathleen sent us this afternoon the enhancement of services items, EOS, that are in the operating budget for 2025. According to what I have here in front of me, you had the same thing. Did you guys get them, Dana and Mark? Did you get this list, this little
Yes.
spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's included at the moment under administration is 95,000 for a human resources position, 20,000 steps, 30,000 for onboarding and human resources programming. The fire department overtime at 231,190, and community center something called building enhancements at $52,000. That's, as I read, that's not a position, that's enhancements to the building. And so when that total is added up, it's $428,190, right? Any questions about that? Michelle?
I just,
I have a quick.
Wait, Michelle, the question.
Okay.
sorry. I was just curious to know if that HR position, is that a fully loaded cost with benefits?
That's what we were told.
Thank you.
Mark Keller.
Is the EOS, are they are they included in the updated budget? And the last budget I have was from last week. What is the percent increase now, Kathleen? It was 8.1%. With these enhancements in service, did the overall budget increase go up?
No, that was
Those are in
included.
there.
That was included.
They were in there, okay.
Did you get that from Kathleen? Kathleen, you may
Yes,
want to sit
I
up
did.
here just so we
So
can.
they're in there, and it still is at 8%, is that right?
Wait, Kathleen's relocating to come up to the front.
I'm moving out. I'm moving in. Hi,
All
Mark.
right, so Kathleen, the question is, if those EOS things are included in the, I guess, the budget documentation we talked about last week, and Mark is asking what the total percentage increase of the town operating budget is. Is that your question, Mark?
Yes, it is, thank you.
Yes, mark that, and for all parties, Kathleen Barrett, Finance Director, in case anybody cares. That was included in last week's budget. There has been no changes.
So he
one other
wants a
question,
verification,
Kathleen, is
hang on, he wants a verification what the total increase year over year is, town operating budget.
You looking for the department budget or the overall budget for Article 4? Just to be clear, there are differences.
Yep, for me, I would start with the town operating budget, municipal side, and then we can talk about the schools and anything else that's in there.
Certainly. So the total department budget increase is 5.5%. If you include the fixed costs, the things that we have no control over, some of which we have actuals, some of which are estimates, is the things like the retirement insurance, the property and liability, unemployment, group health. Those bring the total to 8.1%.
Okay, so if we add I'll just call it overhead, is that fair?
Fixed costs would be more
All
appropriate.
right. You say the number gets to 8.1?
Yes.
Kathleen, has there been any discussion about looking at 8.1 and how sustainable that is over time? Has anybody?
Well, much of the costs, the percentages can be misleading, and I think this is probably something that I'm going to bring up next week. If we look at the 25 budget to 24, you look at like a 9% increase in county retirement assessment. And if you look at the sources and uses, you look at the school assessments. So those are, you say 5%, okay, that seems reasonable. But what it is the, of course I have more stuff than I know what to do with. The school assessment is like $1.5 million for just Monomoy. So but it's such a big budget, it's only 5%. But I think only is a misnomer. I think that's not the best word for a situation like that. So I just want to be clear that, overall, a lot of the department budget increases are contractual increases, salaries. There's not a lot of large departmental increases. The biggest one you'll probably find will be the marina, the harbor, because of dredging costs. And so we have a higher cost. We have a higher transfer in from special revenue funds to help offset that, but that was $247,000 additional. So it's hard to use a percentage to really justify or, evaluate it, it almost needs to be looked at in multiple ways and kind of segmented. Salaries versus operating. There is an addition to staff, so Michelle was right. I mean, that's a $95,000 for salary, and then in the expense side of that, administration, EOS, is the fringe cost. There's also additional costs associated with that position for different training and software and things of that nature because of it's an HR position.
So we also have built in the budget, if I understand it correctly, the $250,000 for the preschool program.
That's correct. That was funded by free cash last year. So that is in the operating budget this year.
Yeah, it was voted on as an article last year.
Yes.
And this year it's in the budget, $250,000. I think it was Joe, when he was here last week, was going to give us some kind of report. I don't know if he gave it to the selectmen or not, on what that program did or didn't do.
I have not seen it. I had been present when the COA director talked about the program as a whole, because it was their first year implementing it, and she said it was very, very successful, had a great dealer participation, and she had really, really good feedback. So overall, it was a very well-received program, but insofar as who received what, I couldn't talk about that.
From our standpoint, we don't know if 25 people got $10,000 apiece, or 250 people got $1,000.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I had asked about that, and I was told that it was, the request was made. I don't know the status of that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, I don't know whether they ran out of money and they just said, okay, we're going to just do these $10,000 chunks, and then the first 25 people made out like, well, and then everybody after that said, we got to wait till next year or something.
Yeah.
Then is there a priority on who gets money or access to it? I mean, that's
Yeah, I really couldn't say. I mean, the overall impression I got was that they tried to help as many families as they could, and it was very well received. And but how many families participated and how much they were allotted, I really couldn't speak to.
yeah, okay.
That may be something that's down the line. I don't know where that request stands.
I'm going to recommend to this board, at least for this evening, that when we get to if we decide we want to vote on the budget, that we do not make a positive recommendation because we did not get the report we were told we would get last week. Okay? I mean, I can't in good conscience make a decision based on not having the information that was requested. That's just me. Okay, other questions? Other questions for the finance director?
This isn't a question, but just a comment concern when we're talking about the percentages, that in that same section where, like, the retirement shows up, what is contributing a chunk to this is the change in debt service from year to year. It's $1 million add-on to a $2.5 million number, which then is a big percentage line item by itself. I'll turn that into a question. Can you comment any on the future running debt service in light of those two numbers, going from $2.5 million to $3.5 million?
So it was kind of reorganized in the 23 budget. The debt line, the majority of which is for wastewater projects. So it was listed as a line item and transferred to the wastewater enterprise fund, and for accounting purposes, it got a little wonky. And that's a very technical term.
It's an accounting.
It is, yeah. So there was some issues insofar as in 24, what was budgeted was actually incorrect. So because 23 budgeted, I get this mixed up every year because I do 3 years at a time. The latest budget, the 16 million plus debt that was brought on, started in 22. The payments didn't start till 24. So what happens is normally, like for a debt, you would usually start about 6 months from the issuance would be, principal, and then another 6 months is principal and interest. No, principal and interest, excuse me. So anyway, so and I kind of reclassified the debt so I could tie to other sources to make sure we had the correct number because of the problem that came up before. And to be fair, a large portion of the debt that is listed, it is broken out in the sources and uses by different categories. And not to bore you with what you probably already know, but a large portion of the debt is exempt debt outside the Prop 2.5. So it requires a vote at town meeting and at the ballot. Those, that debt payment, that debt service is kind of placed in two places. So we have, it's part of the levy because it's outside. You don't have to raise it. It's actually outside. And then you have the debt service. So for every exempt debt schedule that we have that comes on, we're not going to have like a net increase in expense in the general fund because it's covered through the total will increase, but it's not like an unsupported where it's just tax money. It is, but it's outside. I know it sounds a little wordy, but it's a little bit easier for the town to manage. You don't bump up against the levy limit. It still has to be paid, however. It is a cost that is there. The overall increase, of the payment does need to be paid. With the upcoming wastewater projects that have been approved, that were voted at the 23 town meeting, those projects are beginning in earnest, and so the borrowings will be at the end of the spring. And they are anticipated to be about $20 million a year. That debt service will begin in '25. So there will be increases in debt service. It's only going to go up. It's probably not the best, news that people want to hear, but that's what, was agreed on, and that's what will.
Well, people keep voting for it, and it's starting to see the impact of it. That's the bottom line.
So your future-looking schedule, with that knowledge, and every year something rolls off from back in history.
Yep.
But it's looking like that debt service number will be increasing going forward.
It will.
By some amount, and I'm sure that you have a schedule that would show how much in the near term in the next few years, but noticeably increasing. Specifically, we have, you're mentioning one particular new piece of debt that's going to start impacting this in '25.
Yes. There'll be smaller payments, about $300,000 in '25, because the $50 million program is through the Clean Water Trust. So we actually have like a loan agreement with them. So we kind of draw down, it's kind of handled within the year. We don't have to borrow it up front. It's a really great program. It does give the town some breathing room. But when the first large tranche of money is, they kind of reach a good stopping point, that then becomes an actual bond issue, which then payments will begin. So the larger payments will begin in '26.
Okay.
Okay,
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. I would think it would be helpful, and maybe it's the town administrator should be doing this, not you, but I would think when we talk about increases year over year, that it might be helpful to have a little pie chart that says, okay, the debt contributed to this increase, salary and wages contributed this, et cetera, retirement contributed this, just so people can see it. And I think a visual would give them an idea, hey, wait a minute, some of these things are sort of built in, and we're kind of like medical insurance costs. Unless you're going to reduce staff, you're not going to, you're going to go with what the county ends up with for the 8% or whatever, right? Because that's the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that would be helpful to me, I think, but
Yeah,
Michelle.
if I could just comment, like this budget analysis narrative, it's really kind of hard to really have the takeaways from something like this in text as opposed to exactly that, some pie charts or some deeper analysis where we can see what's going on, because it is difficult to kind of just read about it.
The hard part is we're coming up against a hard stop on getting this stuff done. And we got very late in the season. Last week was the first week we got anything. And so here we are. So
Yeah, maybe something that we like, I think that the budget process will be, now that we have consistency of staffing, that's my goal at least, is to have it kind of and we've gone through the crash course of it this year. We'll try to do it a little, for everyone's sake, to do it, with a planning and a great deal of like forethought. There was just so much going on this year. Like, it's a great idea because everyone digests information differently. And sometimes like a visual interpretation, helps. Sometimes like the percentage, like, you'll see a 5% increase and it's because the budget went from $1,000 to $1,500. And it's the same 5% that something went up over $1 million. So percentages can be, so it would be good to see like a different approach, and we'll probably try different ways to see what actually like makes sense when you look at it. It's not until you actually put all the information together and see what it does, you're like, all right, it's just a lot of colors in a circle. Is that helpful? So.
Yeah, the idea is not necessarily to educate us, but to educate the public, because they're the ones that have to, our votes count for getting this put together, but on town meeting floor, it's the average voter. Scott, you have your hand up?
Yeah,
So on this topic?
yeah,
Okay.
it has to do with the nervousness about the 8% and
Go
what it
ahead.
means going forward.
Go ahead.
And that's something that the select board expressed in the meeting last night as well, which I watched on Channel 8. Is there in the comprehensive financial statement, the last of which I've seen was published in, I think, February or March of 2023 for fiscal 22, there's a statement that the town maintains a 5-year forward-looking forecast that's updated every year. So one would think that that sort of a forecast would be exactly the place where one would be either worried or reassured that the single year's increase is something that can be sustained going forward, or maybe it's cause for concern. I know it's too late to fold that into this year, but as part of the list of things that I think would be important going forward for the public,
Sure.
is to have, at least for the committee, to have them reassured that it might look big this year, but going forward, maybe it levels off, and the levies and other sources can keep up after that large increase. I don't know. But is that, maybe that 5-year forecast hasn't been maintained for a while, but do you know of it at all?
I really couldn't speak to that one.
Okay.
I think that might have been something that was discussed, and we had started a process with the state, but
Yeah, to be fair, Kathleen came into a situation, she's putting out the fires, and it took quite a while to get free cash certified this year, which is, another kind of problematic thing going forward.
Right.
But as I hope you hear her saying, that her intention is to do it better next year, and all those comments are very constructive, and I don't disagree with you. Sometimes we put things on paper about plans and whatnot, and we don't actually follow through, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I hear something, and this is on the capital plan, did I hear something last night that they talked about a roof at the Monomoy Middle School? Was that added to the plan, or was it in there somehow?
that
Sorry.
was,
Who said that?
Dana.
Dana. Go ahead, Dana.
Signing,
oh, that's what it was.
The article for $2.5 million for this year for siding and weather type repairs to the building.
Okay, but it didn't appear in the capital plan, right?
Right.
So who brought that up last night? Anybody?
I just found it in the warrant.
Oh, okay.
I just found it.
Yeah.
And then I read the explanation, saw the photos.
Yeah, I mean, part of the struggle I have, I've lived through a lot of capital plans, and it used to be that the plan was actually a plan. You had to earn your way onto the plan, and the first year you ever got on the plan was year 5, and then you worked your way up, and you had expectations. When you got to year 1, you were gonna get it funded. Now we've seen is sometimes take an approach that it's gonna be a cash flow or, cash position plan. Oh, we got money this year, let's just do this thing that we decided on. And so, for instance, it brings up a point about the Brooks Academy that was zeroed out in the capital plan, at least the version we have, which previously, I think, you know, and Mark Kelly, you can speak to this, and Dan, because you were representatives to the Capital Outlay Committee, was previously at $1.16 million for this year. And then I heard something last week about, well, they got to put an elevator in, which I think they're anticipating anyhow. But then they can't get a building permit unless they have the elevator. And so now this shows the zero. I know Joe talked last week about, well, maybe we'll have a town meeting in the fall and we'll figure out something to do, or maybe we'll have some extra cash at that point in time. But my concern is, it should still be on the plan, even if we don't fund it. And in my mind, if we're not able to fund it that year, then it gets moved to the next year, which is 2026. But there should be some recognition of it on here in this plan. I don't know, was there?
There was a lot of discussion about that last night, and I think it was agreed upon, and it might be, you know, worth like actually reviewing it for your own, just to get the sense of the conversation. But it was to be clear that everything on the plan was funded. In case there was confusion, that was the decision that was made, and it was taken off. And I was not party to the conversation, the decision. I just, you know, being a participant. But you know, and then if there was a decision to like do it based on maybe there was changes or adjustments, things of that nature, it was going to be revisited. I think the next time that they meet. I don't know if there was talk about a fall town meeting possibly, you know, or you know, future decisions. I think that there was going to be some more work done with like engineering and surveys of that nature. You know, again, can't speak to the specifics of it, but I think it was like to just kind of reevaluate again, you know, but as they realized, you know, it wasn't going to be funded, you know, at the May town meeting, and then kind of revisit it.
Okay. I mean, if I was revisiting, I'd say, okay, at town meeting, when I do the new plan for next year, that it's going to show up in 26, or it's going to show up in 25, or whatever it's going to show up in. I mean, I wouldn't just, unless they're not going to do the project, you know. Anyhow, okay. Any other questions for Kathleen at the moment?
I have one.
All right, go ahead, Dana.
Go ahead, you go first.
Go ahead,
There you
Dana.
go.
This is just a technical question, and I'm just looking for the technical answer. I'm not trying to put you on the spot for other answers to go with this. We have 204 Sisson Road. It has in Article 39, we're going to be asked to approve the $300,000 limit for their revolving fund. But in our discussions on the Finance Committee and with Joe, a lot of those expenses are for the building, the electricity and the heat and so forth. And is there a mechanism or way that enough money to cover that portion of the budget could be deposited into the general fund and we could carry it in the budget instead of carrying it as part of the revolving fund? Is there a mechanical way to do that, I guess?
What we're really getting to is, in our opinion, we had this discussion last week, that just like with the community center, you had salaries and wages, the cultural center, which is CARA basically, right? And then you had the expenses of running the building, much like you had the expense of running the community center. And we think that should fall into the community center, the person that's in charge of that building. And the thought process is where you've got a $300,000 cap on the revolving fund. If you move that, if you say you're gonna sweep that account periodically to take it to the general fund so that you can pay the operating expenses on that budget, right? That you can change that cap to say $100,000. So.
You'd have to have corresponding revenue to go with those expenses because you don't have room to increase your budget by $300,000.
Well, those funds are sitting there right now. What are they going for?
Right, the revolving fund as a whole, so when funds are received, there's a balance, and then those expenses are paid out of it. The net change, varies through the time. The benefit of the revolving fund is if there's a seasonality to expenses, you could carry things over, so like, if you receive a lot of your money in June, but your expenses are large in July, with a revolving fund, you bring those funds forward and then you're able to spend from them. If it's in the budget, all that money is no longer, you don't have that. You'd have to have.
Well, it's cash flow management, no doubt about it, but I would say this, I'm guessing, and I'm not putting you on the spot, you weren't able to give me the breakdown of what all those deposits were. Somebody else must do that,
It's
right?
all just,
Yeah, I know, but I'm guessing if somebody figured it out, that a lot of it would be rent. And those rents are paid every month out of the year, right? And we have gas utilities that go on all year, we have electric utilities that go on all year, we have telephone that goes on all year, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have that information to make that decision, but I'm guessing it's a lot different than running a rec program. I'm just,
yeah. I mean, I think it's a decision by others besides me about incorporating that. The transition, the first year, for technical purposes, you'd have to absorb all of that cost in the budget.
except right now you got a balance in that account of 200 and.
Yeah, which would go to free cash. You can't carry it forward. It would be part of it rolled in, and then you'd have that
No, I
to
understand
expend
that.
from.
I understand that, but you could start that process, and then next year, when you collect your rents on day one, maybe it's got to be jump-started with $50,000. I don't know.
Yeah.
But for some reason, there seems to be a fear of people understanding what the real cost of running that building is. And I think the public has a right to know.
I mean, I guess, the report, that I distributed has the
Yeah.
detail. I guess, I don't know the history of that building or why it was, they wanted to see if it was self-supporting. And I think by kind of segregating the funds separately, that was how you could best track it. But, again, that's certainly not my decision. The technical aspect of incorporating those expenses along with any other revolving fund in the general fund, if that's the decision, that's something that we could address. It's just the first year, especially logistics are a little,
And we don't run the
Interesting.
community center that way, so.
yeah.
And they are similar operations, basically. I mean, they're, buildings open to the public and they're running activities.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. Dana, did that answer your question?
Yeah, more or less, I guess. I know the number is, I'm not talking about the whole 300,000. Sure, the numbers for gas and electricity and those kind of things, much smaller amount of the typical kind of building. It's a large size, but it's probably very comparable to a community center or something like that, where we would have a series of numbers and just put that in the budget. I know right now we have some excess levy capacity to jumpstart something like that. But I'm certainly not talking about wiping out the 300,000 and then putting all those into the budget.
Got it. Mark, did you have a question on that?
Just Kathleen, is there a final number in the headcount increase? I know they were batting things back and forth, and on the new positions, does that have to be approved by town meeting, or they're rolled in the budget and it doesn't need a separate vote? So how many new heads are there, Kathleen?
There's one.
That's the HR
Okay.
director.
Yep.
Just the HR? Okay.
Yes.
That's good news.
And your other question is, it's a policy decision of the board of selectmen. It used to be that any new position would be taken to town meeting as a vote. Used to be. And now they're put in the operating budget. That's been the practice the last couple of years. You saw it last year with, 5.5 people that were added, right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah.
Back to the capital plan.
Yep.
I think, in terms of the articles, the funding articles, we've seen that there were a couple of other items that came off, one being the irrigation system.
Yes, that's
Could you
gonna
speak
be,
to that one?
yeah, so that's a borrowing that we've talked to our financial advisors about, and, so it's gonna be, my understanding is, and the decision was made to postpone it, and I think that the golf course was okay with it.
So it's going to be postponed as far as you know.
Yes, it won't be in town meeting vote this year, yeah.
The other one, which perhaps is more interesting, is the 5-year maintenance plan number, $1.5 million. I don't think is in one of the funding articles that I last saw.
The five,
Road maintenance, road maintenance.
5-year road maintenance, right.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, that is.
It is? It's not?
That's not part of this
It's not in
borrowing
the articles
either.
that I proved to, so
No, it's not.
unless
Oh,
it's,
no, it was waiting for language, that was one of the borrowings.
again, anyway, what's your
Yeah.
understanding of how that's being funded?
So the $1.5 million, so any of the road work, it's actually, the total incorporates the Chapter 90 money, which is the money that's allocated from the state to the town each year. So, and that is, you get an estimate, so that number actually incorporates Chapter 90 money as well. But the other half of it would be borrowed. But I think because some road work has been delayed, so there's not an immediate need for those funds. So that was another thing that was delayed, and that will be revisited.
But the current plan then is to not have a borrowing article for this money in this warrant.
Exactly.
Well, what's interesting, however, to compare back to the Mr. Hughes' earlier comment, is that being true, I think that the future years may still be in there.
I think because there was an allocation for each year initially,
Right.
whereas it's not a one-off, it's every year. But, again, the decision to add, change, or move, or delete off the capital plan, I was not party to.
So for instance, on the irrigation system, since you brought it up, if they're not gonna do it this year, then, when do they intend to do it? They should at least show it on the plan in the year they intend to do it. It's not going away.
Right, and
Right.
again, the updated capital plan has 0 for road maintenance, but it has the other 4 years all in there
Right, yeah,
still.
yeah. So we skipping a year maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's,
Which
but I will
which
say.
is fine.
Yeah, I know, well, that's the decision, but I will say this also has a total at the bottom. It has a running total by year, so
Yep.
you can look at where, how much money we're gonna spend every year on those type of things, so. It's interesting. Michelle, do you have a
Yes.
question?
Just a point of clarification, so we're just looking at capital plan fiscal year 2025 for funding, correct?
Yeah.
For funding, yes.
For funding. Everything else is projected.
It is projected, but if you just wipe out a project, did that get wiped out because you don't need it anymore? Or are you moving it to some other time?
Or you don't know.
Well, but even if you don't know, you gotta at least indicate it's on the plan. And what the dollar number is, instead of showing up and say, oh, this year we need 2 million for this thing.
If we're doing, given that we're, in theory, doing a 5-year plan of what our capital needs are going to be.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah,
on that, we're gonna make the initial motion at town meeting for next year's capital plan.
yeah.
And, I would think that our motion, we would debate as to whether or not those things would be included as part of next year's capital plan.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to think there'd be an agreement between the two groups as
Right,
to what
right.
you gotta present, but,
But if the agreement is to say those are all zeros now, I don't think we as a body would agree. I know
Right.
based on how we voted last year and the year before,
right?
that would be my opinion. But we can, I'll take a stab at putting together, what the existing plan should be. I mean, the plan is the plan until we vote the new one. And if the new one changes, there are very strict rules as to whether there can be changes in the capital plan or not. And there's also rules about what happens to something that doesn't get funded this year and where it goes next year. I'll put together what, based on our current plan, what next year's plan should have in it. And maybe we can include that in our motion for the article.
You should probably list what those so-called rules are,
Yeah,
so that people remember.
I'll put those out to everybody.
Yeah, okay, all right.
It's
All right.
It's in the, chart.
All right, anything else for Kathleen? Until we start doing something here, and then we'll probably find a million things you want to do. All right, then, you ready to do some motions?
I am, yeah.
Again, I would tonight, based on the information we have, like to leave here with at least a vote one way or the other on everything we have in front of us or even don't have in front of us. If we don't have information on something, we do no recommendation pending further information, but we go on the record that that's who we are, okay?
Yeah. And based on that, Article 4, the town operating budget, I don't think we have everything we need yet to make that decision. So I would move no recommendation pending further information.
Okay, and I'm taking notes as to who motions, so Dana, your motion is no recommendation pending further information, which is NRFI for those that are tuning in. Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
All right, it's moved and seconded on Article 4, which is the town operating budget. No recommendation pending further information. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll
Oh,
put it to
I'm-
vote. Mark?
I'm sorry, can I?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm not party to the committee, but you want, for pending further information, if I could just record what that information is, just so I can track it through the process.
Okay. Then you got a list in your head?
Yeah, I know that we just talked about whether we could do anything or not with 204 Sisson Road. I don't think we can. I have a couple of other recommendations on, like, we talked about the Finance Committee Reserve Fund and so forth.
And you,
The only problem we really have is we haven't got that report yet on the 250,000. There's just things that I think that we'd like
That's
to
the
be
early
up to
childhood.
date on before we vote.
Early childhood.
yeah, so the 204 Sisson was the question as to whether or not you could move the revolving fund expenses
Yeah.
into this year's budget?
Well, to
I
start
don't
with,
see us going forward with that this year, but
wait, just.
I mean, I guess 'cause it's
Let's just be
been
clear.
voted.
To start with, the first thing that has to be done is to take it out of the administration's budget and move it under the cultural center where it belongs, the expenses.
The preschool expenses?
Huh?
The
No.
preschool, because
No,
the,
no, on 204 system.
yeah, those expenses aren't in administration.
They're in,
those are in the
Revolving fund.
The revolving fund.
revolving fund.
well, then you just told us before you couldn't use the revolving fund that way.
No, I mean, you can't increase this budget by $300,000 right now. It's like, after it's been voted.
You
I-
can-
and I'm
you
not-
can- You can increase the budget by a certain amount with the source of revenue being the revolving fund.
I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that with 2 days' notice.
Well, how's it paid
After the
for now?
boards,
How's it paid for now?
the revolving fund is
No,
paid
how are the funds flowing right now to pay the electric bill?
for the 204 Sisson.
Yeah,
It's however the proceeds are, the rent and then the fund balance.
so
Or
also.
whatever, I don't know enough about the program, about how all that revenue is generated.
What we're saying on paper, at least I'm saying, is the responsibility for those utilities and whatever expenses go on there should fall under the cultural director, if that person is in fact in charge of the building, which I think,
Which I believe facilities plays a large part in, and they oversee the utilities and the
somehow
building.
money's flowing from the revolving fund over to the DPW to pay. for it.
No, the DPW, just like, they
Then
just
the DPW.
they use the revolving fund to pay it. All the money in and all the money out is all just for that building.
Yeah. So when they pay the electric bill, how does the money get to the DPW to pay that bill?
The DPW just goes into Munis and uses and has access to the revolving fund account for
Okay,
utilities.
So why can't the same thing be true of the cultural director if it's her responsibility? Am I
For whatever
losing that?
reason, they've decided that that's how those utility bills get paid. I honestly have no
Okay,
idea.
Our suggestion is
Yeah.
that changes, okay?
Okay. No, I just,
I mean, it's that simple.
I just, yeah, that's fine.
I mean, the argument's gonna be how you doing it now, and somehow if the DPW is responsible using the funding source to do that, now we're asking the cultural director to be responsible for that in the same funding source, however that works, would be used.
I mean, it'd be helpful to talk to them about it and why that was decided. I don't know if it was taken on by DPW because there was nobody running the building. I honestly, that's probably a good discussion, but to
We're looking at-
dissolve or
Okay,
change the
we're
purpose.
looking at it from the financial standpoint, that's our.
Sure.
That's our rule.
Yeah, that's something that would require like a great deal of planning is all I would say, so.
Maybe we should start the planning. Just because it takes a great deal of planning doesn't mean it shouldn't be done either, so. What was the other thing, Dave? Now it's on a track, and then I get,
If we're not gonna go forward with that, I could actually make a positive motion on the operating budget if you like.
no, because you get the $250,000 in there that, you'd have no idea about.
Right. That's the biggest report we're waiting for, which is why I made the no recommendation pending further information.
Yep, okay.
I've got an item to add to that request.
Yeah, go ahead.
Final sources and uses and Appendix B that agrees to what's actually being voted.
So you want updated the,
I think the
Sources.
last published copy that we have is not final.
Well, there was no changes voted last night to the budget as a whole.
The last meeting we had or I guess it was last meeting, when you mentioned I think more or less $100,000 that had been added.
Dana, the other request I would make is that, I believe it's our recommendation that of the fire department overtime, that 75,000 of that get put into the finance committee reserve fund.
Yeah, that would be,
Yeah, so that's another reason. There's another reason.
Okay.
there was, the finance director can help, there was $8,000 added to it was, the last paperwork we got, it was like 45,710,000, now it's 45,718,000, there was 8,000 added. You know where that came from, what the source of that one was?
Yeah, that was an increase in the debt estimate to,
Okay.
just because we do not have final numbers, and there may be slight adjustments because we're still like a month out, and because we have, all the other debt is budgeted to the dollar, and it was 8,000, we rounded up from 302 and change to 310, just to make sure that if there was a last minute, rate change or something like that, we had kind of taken that into account.
So the raise and appropriate number was up by that amount, correct?
It does.
Okay, so the
That's-
other,
right.
what Bob's question is, the other sources are the same, 2,690,639, and then estimated receipts of 16,307,350.
That's why I'd just like to get a schedule that agrees to what we're voting, would vote,
Right.
that's all.
So that's
we're not
why
doing
I-
this verbally.
It won't be in the warrant printed what our budget is, but we'll vote it correctly if we hold off on it. Maybe-
Exactly.
Maybe
That's
when we
right.
meet again on April 2nd, there'll be enough time to get it in the warrant.
Sure.
Okay, anything else? All right, so the motion on Article 4, Town Operating Budget, is no recommendation pending further information. You ready for a vote? Mark?
Aye. Aye.
Dan? Michelle? Bob?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Sure is an aye, all right. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, that's easy. All right, next.
We have a new one that's in the warrant, or at least a new amount. We didn't have the amount until our last meeting, and it's $2.5 million for the Monomoy Middle School project, and it's a draft article. I would recommend a recommendation pending further information on that one, if we don't know enough about it at all. This is for siding at the middle school.
Okay.
We'll have it, us.
I have no idea.
Peter, Dana.
Hang on a
the,
second.
Monomoy
Wait. Dana made a motion, no recommendation pending further information. Is there a second to that?
It's
motion?
Article 9.
Article 9.
Is there a second to that motion? You're checking to see what Article 9 is.
Just to clarify, I know that Monomoy, the representative from Monomoy did come was it last week or the week before to speak specifically about this debt. I wouldn't want to go from memory what he said, but I know that there is information that he did provide.
Yeah, well, he was before us 2 weeks ago, so.
Okay.
Is there a second to that motion? All
I'll
right,
second it.
you're seconding it? Okay. All right, now let's have discussion. Dana?
I wasn't prepared to vote tonight. I don't know enough about it. I wasn't available for the presentation meeting that you had. I don't know if more information came out there. I haven't had a chance to watch that one yet. But unless, if the rest of the committee's ready to go ahead, I'll just,
The superintendent and business manager did talk about this. They did talk about the need to do this. And actually, I don't have the packet with me that they gave us on the school, but I think it was in that packet. If you have it, Bob, you know the handout they had? You get it closer.
Yeah, let's see.
He's gonna find it.
I'll try to find it.
and this was another new thing to the capital plan. I mean, we didn't have prior knowledge
Yeah, I
a
think
month
that
ago, did none of this was out.
for whatever reason, I think this just came up at the school level and they brought it forward, I think. You know, sometimes we don't do a good job of talking to the school as to what they need, right? So,
I don't, no, I
surprise,
don't
surprise.
have
I don't have it
it.
either.
I don't have it.
But we can come back and visit this next week. We meet on the 2nd, okay?
Yep. Hopefully,
Unless somebody else has a different, more extensive recollection on it than I do at the moment. Bob's gonna take the assignment to dig it out and send it around. Actually, Mark, you should take that assignment. You're the liaison to the school.
I'll get in touch with the business manager, and he did have a handout. I'll get it and I'll forward it to you, Dan.
Yep.
thank you, that'd be great.
All right, good.
Okay.
I'll still stand.
All right, any further discussion? The motion on Article 9, which is the Monomoy Middle School renovation project, is no recommendation pending further information. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Dana?
I,
Mark?
Aye.
Chair is an aye, 7-0, okay. All right,
the next articles are 13, 14, and 15, the petition articles. I don't have positive motions for those, if someone wants to make one. Otherwise, I would recommend definitely take one.
okay, so I'll just refresh everybody's memory. Last week, we took up petition Article 13, which is the home rule petition for pesticides. The vote was 3-3, so it was a no vote. No vote. So if someone has a positive motion they'd like to make and try and bring this forward,
Well, I made the positive motion on 13 last week, and we voted it. So we voted to essentially that it would not go forward, I guess, with the 3-3 vote.
Well, now we have 3-4, so, or
So we can
4-3.
reconsider?
We can.
Okay, I will make a motion to reconsider Article 13.
I
Okay.
second.
Okay, then move to reconsider Article 13, which is the pesticide article.
You take that vote first.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a motion to reconsider, that's what I said. Okay? Any discussion on reconsideration? Anybody want to talk us out of it? No? Okay, we'll put it to vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Chair is an aye, 7-0. All right. Now we will reconsider. The positive motion on Article 13?
I'll make a positive motion.
I'll second it.
So
Huh?
I would like to move, accept and adopt
Adopt, yeah.
Article 13
Yeah.
as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I like to second it.
Second. Okay, so we have a motion to accept and adopt, which Bob made, Michelle seconded, on Article 13, the pesticide article. Discussion.
Well,
Go ahead, Bob.
I think as commented last week, I see no reason why we essentially should continue having pesticides available. They, I know I handle wild animals that have been killed with pesticides, and killed and injured with pesticides on a regular basis, and I think it's perfectly valid idea to stop having them, try to stop having them available. And that can only really be done one community at a time.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'll
Okay.
just say that, back in the 1990s, when I was a pesticide applicator, we had a complete organic program available to people, and wasn't able to sell it. This is gonna hurt a lot of local businesses and so forth, and I just don't think it's a way to hurt them. And I don't think these types of things in our town should come in by petition. I think they should come in through our own planning board and done as a way to best fit our town. This is a generic approach from another town and probably been pasted into the word Harwich. So that's generally why I don't like to support kind of arguments.
Okay, anybody else? Any further discussion? Hearing none. Again, the motion is to accept and adopt Article 13. It's a petition article on pesticides. I'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Dana?
No,
Mark?
No.
All right, chair is a no, so it's a 4-3 vote. So the motion does carry, by the way.
what were the yeses? Just
The yeses were all four right here. So you got Mark Amarez, you got Dan, Michelle, and Bob.
okay.
I'm just making notes so I have it. Be so much easier if you all just would call by numbers, you know. Or if we had clickers. Okay. We're done with that article. Now you may want to move on to 14.
And I'm just making the note. I have nothing on that one either as far as the positive.
Okay, does anybody have a positive motion on Article 14, which is regulation of application of fertilizers?
That's
Sure, I'll make a positive motion. Accept and adopt Article 14 as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Moved and seconded to accept and adopt Article 14, which is a petition article regulating the application of fertilizers. Discussion on the article.
Well, my comment is basically the same, that there's no particular reason, actually. The idea that more and more people are moving to Cape Cod and trying to turn it into their Wellesley lawn is, I don't think, healthy for the Cape. And this is one way in which we could at least make a statement concerning that point of view on the topic of our land and water here.
Okay, further discussion? Michelle?
Yeah, so I just want to comment that, you know, we're taking all these steps to deal with the septic and the water and cleaning up and being, mindful there. I mean, this permits, except for the purposes of commercial agriculture and the residential use of organic fertilizer. A lot of people don't want to buy organic. I mean, I don't know, Dana, you can comment, but I'm assuming organic's more expensive. So I think that, sometimes people need a little nudge to pick, better choices for our environment. And I agree there's going to be further development with these lawns and such. And I just think we should do everything we can to try to stop the chemicals being sprayed and distributed.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Dana, Mark, you have a comment?
The other real problem with these type of articles is they don't have any funds at all for enforcement. They don't have any funds at all for education. And if there's no enforcement, it will be sort of like what happened with plastic water bottles. People will buy them from other places, bring them here and use them. And we'll have no enforcement of this regulation.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, hearing now, again, the motion is to accept and adopt Article 14 on regulating application of fertilizers. Put it to a vote. Mark?
Nay.
Ooh. I gotta write that down. Okay,
Aye.
and Michelle,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Mark K.
No,
Dana,
No?
chair is a no. So the motion is not passed.
Postpone.
Yeah, the motion does not pass. It's indefinitely postponed. 4-3, 3-4, I should say. Okay?
Okay.
All right, now we're moving on to the swimming pool. Article 15, again, a petition article affirming support for public access to Olympic swimming pool and facilities at the Harwich Community Center. So this, as I understand it, it's not a funding article. It's asking if you're in favor of building an Olympic-sized swimming pool and running the same at the community center. Is there a motion, positive motion on this one?
I'll make a motion to accept and adopt that article.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'd like to second it.
Michelle? Okay, discussion.
Just one thing, this is just an advisory article, just if people would want it, and that may start the debate, and of course, when costs come up, maybe that will change people's minds, but at least gets the discussion going.
So Mark, you're a construction expert. An $18 million construction estimate in 2018 would equate to what in 2025?
Well, first of all, if it was an Olympic-sized pool, which I think they did cost, I don't think that's really what's realistic for the town. It's more a pool that's
But
the
that's
size
not
of
what they're
a
asking for. They're asking for
YMCA pool.
they're asking for an Olympic-sized pool.
Yeah, well, I don't think in the discussion it would actually be an Olympic-sized pool. That's not needed. But again, it's just to start the discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Dana.
I was on the study committee for the original building, which did include a pool. 98% of the residents were in favor of the pool. That was done in several different surveys throughout the town prior to the building of the building. But when the cost came in at then $2 million to add the pool, townspeople were not in favor. Actually failed a couple of votes before we got to the vote where we actually passed it. And it was passed for $5 million to build the community center without the pool. When the community center was built, we did put a larger main in from the street to the building for allow water to be able to someday fill the pool. We put the knockout stations down below for locker rooms to be added on. There is a drawing that says that the pool will kind of go at a 45-degree angle off from the backside of the building as to where it would go. Again, the building has the knockouts in the basement to be able to add those walkways right into a women's locker room and a men's locker room, do all these things. It's just that the cost is prohibitive. I was on the pool committee for 1 year after I was a selectman, and the pool committee was an advisory committee to come up with what we needed for a pool. And towards the end of that year, I was appointed to the finance committee, so I could no longer be on the committee and kind of just went away after I left it. There's a lot of favor for the pool. People want it and so forth, but when you put the price tag in front of them, especially today, no matter what size you end up building, it's just on top of everything else that we got throwing at these people. I would rather see it as is, that come in on the capital plan on year 5, and work its way forward so people have a lot of time to adjust to it, think about it, discuss it, and have it come in that way as a capital project, than to come in this way as a petition. I like the idea that they're asking for a resolution rather than an article, but again, the cost, it's easy to pass this and say, hello, yes, we'd like to do it, and get this discussion going again, but I think the article just being there does the same thing, whether it's passed or not. I just think that this isn't going to build you a pool. What's going to build you a pool is planning it out and taking the plan that originally existed and saying, what do we want to build and how much is it going to cost to add that.
So is my understanding of this, that this article or something like it may be also raised in a couple other towns, thinking that Harwich would be the host of this? Is that correct? Does anybody know?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
So there seems to be, and I just saw it on Facebook, an organization that is interested in finding a town to be a location where they could put a pool, but it sounded like they were looking to have it accessible by others outside of just the town. So I
it's a
mean, I
regional-
think that's
a
a
regional
regional,
swimming pool.
yeah. So I think that's a really different idea than just a pool for Harwich, town residents. And so that would be good if we could clarify that.
So the name of that group is Upstream Aquatics, and they had a meeting over the weekend at O'Shea's, I believe.
Okay. Well, all right, any other discussion on this? Again, the motion is to accept and adopt the article, just so we're clear. We'll put it to a vote. Mark?
No.
Dan?
No.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob?
No.
Mark Kelleher?
Aye.
Okay. Dana?
No,
And chair is a no, so it does not pass, so we're indefinitely postponing this.
And to answer your question,
The vote was 2 to 5. Okay. All right, what's next?
The next one is to adopt the capital plan. If you want to wait for my input as to what the numbers should be, if we're gonna, instead of wiping those out, or you could just make a motion that we would include a capital plan that has those numbers, so it's up to you.
My druthers are no recommendation pending further information, because
That's my motion.
I'll second that.
I'll get to you, Scott. You just wait, we have a motion we gotta deal with, okay? So just, all right, so your motion was indefinite, no recommendation,
My
right?
recommendation, yeah.
Did you second that, Bob?
I did.
Okay. Okay, discussion. All right, I don't hear any from the committee. Scott, did you have something you wanted to say on this?
Just in terms of 2025 and the sources down below the list of projects, there's $2.9 million coming from free cash. And I couldn't find anywhere what portion of available free cash that represents. I know in
Free
20
cash is 2.92 million, if I remember right, Kathleen?
2.892,
2.892.
yes.
That's what's coming in 2025. I think in 2024, last year's warrant said 4.9 million or so, coming from free cash for the capital plan. And I just don't know, how much is there in free cash?
That's almost all of it.
2954, 463.
With the town meeting and the warrant we're dealing with now, the free cash available is the number that's recently been certified by the state, which is 2.8 what?
That's the question he's asking. Let me get that number too.
2954,
Yeah, 2954,
56, 463.
So it's all of it, basically.
almost all of it, yeah.
Very close.
Yeah.
Very close, yeah.
Now, last year we had something like 7.2 million
7
or
million.
something, yeah. I mean, it was
Right,
a
okay.
watershed, so. Okay, the motion on Article 16, which is adopt the capital outlay plan, is no recommendation pending further information. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob? Mark K?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Chair is on a 7-0. Okay. We did 17 last time.
18, 19 is capital outlay projects funded from water retained earnings.
I have nothing on that. Do you have any update on that? This is Article 19.
There's two items that have been added to that list, and they're both, one is the painting of the Pleasant Ave tank, and
Right.
the other is borrowing for the tank.
Yep.
That language is not added into the article at all. The rest of it is in there, vehicles, equipment, and well, we have.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
can't see putting one without the other, so I would make no recommendation that's for.
exactly. All right. Dana moves, no recommendation pending further information. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I wasn't sure that I was clear on what Dana's reason for not going ahead on this was.
Because we don't have the information on the language.
There's no language at all.
You had this in yellow, and if you look at the warrant we were given last time,
Yep.
there's no language associated with it, so we have an incomplete article.
Okay.
I mean, that's simple.
We go, the table is, the current table is complete, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just, it's the narrative that you're saying is incomplete.
Right, because this has to contain language to borrow the money for these two items.
Just to clarify, I don't know if you have the version that I have, but the Article 19 I have is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer available funds, or borrow a sufficient sum of money to fund the items in the table below.
Right.
So
What I have
do you
is
not
dated.
have that language?
Mine's dated, yeah, but then underneath this is draft only, borrowing language to be added.
And in the copy from the packet the other night, that note was removed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the version I'm working from, is what was presented to the select board last night, so I don't,
Presented to the select board was by request of the select board and the Board of Water and Water Wastewater Commissioners, estimated cost $2,402,000.
Okay, so they updated the cost. So they included that. Okay. Did the selectmen vote that?
yes.
All right, Dana, so the estimated cost is $2,402,000. You got that? And
Yeah.
apparently in the draft we don't have, but was the other night, that highlighted yellow stuff is gone. In other words, it includes the Pleasant Lake tank painting at $1 million and borrowing for remainder of tank, $750,000.
And I presume they're gonna borrow the 1.75 and then do the rest with available funds?
Doesn't say, well, it just says raise and appropriate, it says any way they're gonna do it.
All right.
Would you like to
I'll
withdraw your,
motion.
you wanna withdraw your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, do you wanna withdraw your second?
I withdraw.
Okay, so let's start again.
I move to accept and adopt Article 19 with $2,402,000 coming from Water Commission Fund.
I second.
Okay, moving
This
this,
would be water enterprise funds?
yep. Okay, so this is moved and seconded, accept and adopt Article 19, which is capital outlay projects funded from water retained earnings. The total is $2,402,000. Any discussion? All right, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Mark K?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Chair is an aye, 7-0. Okay? One of you did 21. Is there any update on that one? Conservation restriction on 1039 Route 28. Did they take an action on this, do you know?
Yes, it did.
They accept and adopt?
They did. There was a change. It is now $2 million rather than $2.7 million.
So the number in a couple of places in here, Dana, is $2 million, not $2.7 million. I assume the rest of the description of the parcel of the acreage stays the same, et cetera, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, it was discussed, the details of which were presented last night. So if, for the specifics, that would probably be the best reference.
Okay.
And this is gonna be borrowed?
This is through a grant. It's no cost to the town.
Okay. So it's just it's a grant?
It says program reimbursement grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We just have to accept it. Accept $2 million. Get it? Accept $2 million. We like accept. So what's your motion, sir?
Motion to accept the $2 million for this purpose.
So accept and adopt Article 21. Dana, is there a second?
I second.
Okay. All right, discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote. Mark?
Aye. Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob? Dana?
Aye.
Mark K? Chair is an aye, 7-0. Okay, moving on, Article 22.
Land acquisition?
Yep. So they're gonna use sale land sinking funds, right? What's your pleasure?
I would assume that they went for this. I would move to accept and adopt. Article 22 with $1,505,001 coming from the sale of land in fund.
Right. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so moved and seconded to accept and adopt Article 22, which is the expenditure of funds from the sale of 276 Queen Anne Road. The amount to be expended is $1,505,001. Okay. Discussion, Michelle.
Can we just clarify, what do they do with the land once they acquire it? Is it to be resold or retained for the use of the town, or do we know that?
Reading this, I don't know it, but
This land is land we sold. Now they want to use the money.
But they're not being at all clear on, other than acquisition of land, what might be the use of the land that they acquire.
The Director of Finance can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the title of the article is to expenditure of funds for sale of 276.
It
And I
is,
think part of those funds have been spent in an earlier article.
no.
No?
No, this was from a parcel that was sold. So the
Right.
vote is to take all of those proceeds and put it in a special article to buy land in the future at the behest
Okay.
of the select board.
it's a consolidation of money that's sitting around.
Yeah, I knew it was the, from us land that's already been sold.
Yeah.
This was the old pet cemetery.
Right.
There was no purpose that was
We don't have to
specified.
exhume any
It
pets.
was originally.
We don't have to exhume any pets.
We went
Yeah.
through all that.
Exactly.
But, quick question for
Good.
Kathleen.
Yeah.
Those funds are currently sinking in the sitting in the land sinking fund,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
And are there already restrictions on the use of the land sinking fund?
It can only be used for something that you can borrow for 5 or more years. So it cannot be used for like operating expense or things of that nature. It has to be for a long term, something that you would borrow for 5 or more years.
But it does not clarify that need be land.
It does not, no.
So this is essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but this sounds like it's essentially narrowing in the focus of what this piece of funds, which is I assume less than 100% of the land
This is
sinking fund.
100% of the funds.
Oh, is it now?
It is. It's all of the funds that's in the sale of land fund. 'Cause that's how the process, when something's sold, it's held in those funds and then, appropriated.
That's
So,
the only one that's in there.
so yeah, that's all the money that's in there. It's being appropriated in a special article to purchase land, I guess at the behest of the select board.
To essentially, to narrow that focus then, of
Yeah.
what the wording of the land sinking fund is currently, to narrow it down to only being used for land. For this,
Yeah,
for
you're-
this $1.5 million.
You're
I
very
see.
close to correct, but it's going out of a special fund to go on another special fund.
Got it.
It's kind of more accounting purpose, but yeah, so those funds will be restricted solely for the purpose and under the control of the select board. And I don't believe another appropriation will be required. They'll be able to expend directly from that article.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Okay. Again, the motion on Article 22, accept and adopt in its expenditure of funds from the sale of 276 Queen Anne Road. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Aye. Michelle?
No.
Well, I gotta make a big note here, Bob.
Oh,
Bob,
Okay, hang on. Dana? Mark?
Aye.
Chair is an aye. So it's 6-1, and Bob is dissenting.
Speaking of which, Dana, would you get the spelling of my name correct?
Bob?
It has
No,
never,
why not?
it has never been correct in the warrant.
What's it, does he use MC?
The warrant has continually used MC, and last year it did too.
Okay, so the next one I have is Article 37.
Yep.
That's repurpose Article 31 of the 2013 annual meeting. Looking to transfer $25,000 from appropriation in Article 31 of that meeting for carpeting and flooring at the Brook Street Library.
Move to accept and adopt 25,000 transfer.
There a second?
A second.
Discussion?
Where are we?
We're on Article 37.
Okay.
Okay, so repurpose.
Yep.
They passed an article previously, now they've used up that, they want to move it over to.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye. Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Mark K?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Chair is an aye, 7-0. Okay, now we're moving on to Article no number, which is 38. Says placeholder fund fiscal year 2024 wastewater debt. Do you know anything about that?
I do.
Ooh.
Do you don't have the most updated?
We have
Article
this, which was
38.
given to us last week, and nobody sent us anything thereafter, so.
It's been updated in the packet and numbered correctly.
Well, okay, that's
Yes.
fine, but we don't have it.
Not in our packet.
So just for my own sake, just because I'm new to this whole process, who provides you the documentation in your packet?
That should be, no. Our packet is our own packet, but the warrant should be provided from administration to us.
So the select board packet that was posted for the meeting last night, do you get that sent to you?
No,
No.
but,
Do you like access it directly?
of course we can go
Okay.
do that, but, out of respect to the finance committee, they should send us an update and say, we did this last night, here it is.
Fair enough. I was just curious about the process.
no,
Just, so just so you have the most updated information,
That's
so you
why
better
we're-
use your
That's why
time.
you're here, thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just,
And that's why I was earlier asking for whatever the final copy of the
Yeah,
packet essentially is.
I mean, I give some of the information, to be incorporated, but then I go and I print the whole thing myself too, so.
Okay, so what do you have on this article?
Article 38 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from wastewater retained earnings $858,742 for the FY 2024 wastewater enterprise fund operating budget and to act fully thereon. There's a, so
Get
just,
that, Dana?
Yeah, I'm just for the reference pack.
Oh, okay.
yeah, so just for
It's a
background, it's to correct a reference in last year's town meeting. There was an improper funding source, so this corrects it and then funds this current year's wastewater for debt service. And it comes from the retained earnings.
You find it, Dana, it's probably on page 280 or something.
Yeah, I got it, and that's 858,742.
Yes.
Is it 858 or 857?
858, 742.
Okay. All right,
Okay, I would move we accept and adopt estimated cost 857,842, and this is, water retained earnings,
right.
wastewater retained earnings, I'm sorry.
Yep.
There a second?
A second.
Discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote. Mark?
Aye. Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Okay, 7-0. That was easy enough.
And
Okay,
just for
Article,
clarity purposes, it's numbered as Article 38, just so if it gets lost in the shuffle. I
Right.
don't know if you had an article number.
yeah, we had a
Okay.
placeholder here. Yeah,
Oh,
we had
good,
a
okay.
placeholder.
Okay, wasn't sure.
All right, now the fun one, Department revolving funds. My recommendation, this is the 204 Cistern Road be capped at $100,000 with the other changes we've been talking about as far as the operating budget. So at this point, we may want to indefinitely postpone, not, we may want to, no recommendation pending further information.
So moved.
I second.
Discussion?
Yeah, what's the further information you're looking for?
There has to be, I guess the selectmen administration have to agree that they will put the expenses, the 204, under the cultural director, right? And that they will,
As expense,
huh?
as an expense under the expense line.
Yeah, yeah. And then it will get funded just the way it's funded now. And if there's funds in DPW, they gotta move them over here.
So if we don't get if there's a question, I guess, submitted somewhere tomorrow or the next day, and we don't get some sort of response by
Right.
next Tuesday,
Right.
we will then vote. let's
If we're
have
not,
a vote.
if we're not satisfied with the answer, we stay with no recommendation pending further information. And when it gets to town meeting, the Board of Selectmen have to make the positive motion, we won't.
Yeah,
Unless we make another motion.
Yeah, I
based
know.
on-
That could change the night of town meeting, but I mean, I just,
Right, right. I mean, then we've got time, this is just so we can have something to warrant every single article. We have time to flush out some of the ones we have no recommendation.
it's gonna be pretty clear when you go through the list where we think we need somebody to come see us or do something.
In other words, we might have to put, for example, if we can't do it mechanically, because this is it coming from a revolving fund, we can't use it as an operation cost, we may want to increase, raise and appropriate for the small amount of money we're looking for.
well, or we could consider amending the revolving fund number for 204 to, as was mentioned, $100,000, and essentially force an accounting change by not having enough appropriated revolving fund.
Yeah, I think it merits a discussion, so. That's
Yeah.
all,
Yeah, yeah.
that's all we're trying to do.
This is gonna force a discussion one way or another, whether or not we take a vote based on the new discussion. Will happen later.
Okay, any further discussion? Is no recommendation pending further information?
Well,
Go ahead.
one comment is, the truth of the matter is, we don't know how much of the 300 should be part of that,
Yeah,
right? We don't know that, so that's what we're trying to,
we're trying to change the way they account for.
yeah.
how
But I'm
things
saying
are
you said
paid.
100,000 here, but you don't.
Well, I threw that out there, but I mean, we're not
We
doing
don't-
Well,
that.
actually, we have a pretty good idea,
We're not
because
doing that.
we were sent a list of all their expenses for a significant portion of the year,
Oh.
and the schedule of what their total expenses were for last year. And they have they're categorized in that 3-page list that we were sent.
Yeah,
Um,
yep,
And so you can take a stab, which I did, at categorizing them as utilities and whatever.
got it. Thank you, yeah.
That schedule also, we were sent a schedule of revolving fund activity, showing that for that revolving fund, basically the revenue and expenses as is were about equal. That they weren't really a user of the revolving fund, this past year anyway.
Beyond the revolving fund. Yeah. Okay, you ready to vote? All right, Mark?
Nay. No.
Okay. Dan?
Aye.
Michelle?
What's the motion?
The motion is no recommendation pending further information.
Aye.
Okay. Bob?
Aye.
Okay. Mark K?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
All right, chair is an aye, 6-1.
Your pocket.
Okay, next, we have Article 40. Transfer 172 Queen Anne Road for disposition. All right, so they want to sell it.
Blank
We
to
have nothing, unless we've got an update right now. We have nothing on Article 40, 41, and 42. There's no dollar amount. It's a transfer of the care and custody of the land, but there's a dollar signs there without any amount.
And in the packet from last night, there is still no value.
Okay.
Did they act on this last night?
They did approve these. I think the question was to just transfer control of the property. So I don't believe that there's a cost associated with it, but again, that may be worth, to hear their point of view.
It wasn't clarified last
No,
night.
because I mean, I think this was just a process. This leads to the eventual, to move forward with this properties in some form or another, whatever the board decides. But this was to make it so that once this voted, then they'd then have the authority to do something with those properties. I think the intention was to sell them, but again, I don't want to speak directly for them.
Okay,
So at this point, I would say, where they don't have enough information before they voted it, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it's gonna go. I would just say no recommendation on all three of these.
Yeah, I would recommend that as well, and my reason being, if you identify a dollar and don't put a number in there, it's incomplete.
We don't wanna vote.
Yeah, well, I don't, not from a finance committee standpoint, so.
Do you want to vote it or table it?
So I move all three of those articles to make no recommendation pending further information. Unless you wanna take them separately.
No, I don't want to take them separately unless you guys want to stay here all night. All right, so Dana moved. What are they, 40, 41, and 42?
Yep, yes.
40, 41, and 42. No recommendation. And it is just a number, right? So Dana motion, is there a
Yeah.
second? Somebody seconding?
I'll second.
Okay, Bob's seconding. Discussion? I don't think we're not objecting to the doing it, we're just saying that it's incomplete without the number. I mean, really, that's what it is.
Or to delete that
Or
reference.
all three numbers?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially where there's it's so tight on free cash, it just can't come around and say, well, if there's gonna be legal fees of $25,000. You can't say, well, let's vote $75,000 out of free cash, it can't be done.
Yeah.
So they, in addition, because it's so tight, in addition to a fund amount, they need to have a funding source.
Yeah,
Yep.
we got it.
Yep.
So, okay, so the motion is no recommendation pending further information on Articles 40, 41, and 42. Okay, they're all land transfers. They're just different locations.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to the vote. Mark?
I times 3?
Aye. Times three.
Aye times three.
Bob?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
All right, chair is an aye, 7-0.
We're getting down there, folks. Hang in there. Article 43 is to amend Chapter 7 of the general bylaws to add two members to the Board of Health I would move that we accept and adopt Article 43. This adds 2 alternates to the Board of Health.
There a second?
I second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept and adopt Article 43, which is amend Chapter 7 of the general bylaws, focusing on the Board of Health, adding 2 alternates, excuse me. Discussion? Anybody want to sign up to be an alternate? Can't lose you. All right. We'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Aye. Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Chairs and I, 7-0, thank you.
Article 24 is also to amend Chapter 71 of the general bylaws, and a lot of it is to finally correct some language that's been around for a while, and try and get some dates. It says that the moderator, instead of may do this, shall do this, those kinds of things. I would move to accept and adopt this article.
There a second?
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept and adopt Article 44, which is Chapter 271 of the general bylaws. What's highlighted there is votes of the Select Board and the Finance Committee establishing recommendations regarding town meeting articles shall be printed in the warrant with each individual's recorded vote and home phone. No.
Delete that line.
The reason we go through this, and you'll see in the construction of the warrant, they've already stood the layout. You know, here are the Finance Committee members, and they will identify on each vote. You know, Fred voted yes on this, but Bill voted no on it, you know. All right. Then move to accept and adopt Article 44. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yep, go ahead.
So, you know, I have an issue with the changing of the moderator may versus shall. Because I do think, so if I read this correctly, shall obligates the moderator to allow a non-resident department head to speak. But, you know, the moderator may have reasons to not think that would be prudent or a good idea. And so I don't think we should, you know, I think we should really consider that change in language. And I'd really like to understand who came up with that and why.
I'm guessing that, and as far as I know, in all the time I've gone to town meeting, there's never been a non-resident department head denied the ability to speak. Now, someone who's a non-resident may get denied the ability to speak. I think that happened a year or 2 ago.
Oh, okay.
This is a department head. So Dan Pelletier, who's the Water Wastewater Commissioner, does not live in town. All right? So every year, Michael has to get up and say, you know, whether or not he's going to be able to speak at town meeting.
So,
He shall let him. I mean,
yeah, so I missed that distinction because I was thinking just a non-resident,
Yeah.
right? Because a non-resident could have a conflict of interest or a financial, you know, benefit from something passing that may not be clear to the attendees at the town meeting. So, but what you're saying, this is a person who works in the town.
he's a department
who-
head.
Yeah, so,
For
okay.
instance, Lynn Cooper lives in Brewster, if I
Yeah,
remember right. So-
yeah, so thanks for that clarification
Yeah.
because that does change it
Okay.
for me.
All right, any
There
further?
was actually a somewhat unpleasant exchange last year on this topic at town meeting.
Yes,
It was really kind of uncomfortable, what some people were throwing out, so.
But it wasn't a department head, was it?
It was a
It was.
department head,
Was it?
yes. I mean, there may have been more than that.
Okay.
But there was specifically a department head topic. that came
Oh,
up.
okay, now I remember that. All right, thank you. All right, any further discussion
So-
on this? Go ahead, Michelle.
can you expand upon that at all? So does that
No, I won't-
Does that support this or
Again,
does it not support this change?
Yeah, I think supports it, supports making the change because it clarifies, I guess you could say, a right for the moderator to recognize the department head without depending upon the town meeting activities.
Didn't that do with the school superintendent?
It may have been, I just can't, 100% remember which one it was,
Yeah.
but it was,
Anyhow,
I couldn't find it in the news.
okay. Wasn't close. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll put it to vote. And again, the motion is to accept and adopt Article 44, which is amend Chapter 271 of the General Bylaws. Put it to a vote, Mark.
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Michelle?
No.
Okay. Aye. You said aye?
I said,
Okay. Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Okay, chair's an aye, so 6-1. And by the way, it's okay not to agree all the time, so I mean, don't. Okay, Article 45, amendments to the Harwich Charter.
Just for clarification, all of these are in there, the stuff that they talked about all year. At what point there was a discussion about limiting the finance committee's involvement to just funding articles instead of any article, but that discussion didn't show up in this article. And all amendments to the charter have to be voted at a town meeting, and then the following year voted in a warrant, a ballot vote. So this will take 2 votes, and it'll take 2 years to implement, basically. I move we accept and adopt this article as printed.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, let me ask the question. Has this been vetted by the Charter Review Committee?
Yeah, they presented it.
Can you speak to that, Bob?
I believe so, yes.
Do you believe you can speak to it, or you believe?
I won't care. I believe that it has been vetted by the charter.
Okay, if someone calls me up, I'm just gonna say, Bob told me it was.
Well, if she's watching, you may get the call direct.
Here it is now. Well,
Exactly.
okay.
A lot of these were put forward about the town clerk correcting language that they missed the first time around when they tried to change Board of Selectmen into Select Board. I have voted against that article every year because you can't do it in one paragraph, but we finally passed. This is a result. We have to go back and fix a lot of the pieces that didn't say Board of Selectmen, it said the Selectmen.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, further discussion.
Fix all of those.
The motion is to accept and adopt Article
So the
45.
other important fact is the HR positions in here too.
It is. It reports to 2 different groups.
Why?
Excellent question. I don't know the answer. Determined by the town administrator and the select board, I guess, right? Further discussion, except for why the HR person reports to 2 people. Maybe we'll figure it out before town meeting. All right, hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Michelle?
I,
Bob?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Sure is an aye, 7-0. All right. It's getting fewer sheets of paper here. Petition article. I think this is Ed McManus's article number 46, attainable housing.
I don't have a positive motion on this.
Bob, you're our resident expert on housing. Do you
I will make a positive motion.
You will?
Yeah, accept and adopt this as the petitioner has submitted.
Okay. It's been moved to accept and adopt Article 46. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion.
can you
Well, I
give a
think
little
that-
background and tell me a little bit more about this?
I think what what is trying to be done here and what other towns are trying to do in one way or another is to at least provide some flexibility for the possibility of using funds that have been put aside for housing, whether in a trust fund or probably in other towns, perhaps some other place, in a manner that does not restrict them to the narrow definition of big A affordable housing that might otherwise be considered. The housing, both Community Preservation Act and the Housing Trust regulations both have fairly defined definitions of what funds can be used for. This is going to make essentially asking to make an application for, I think it's a home rule petition, right? To get flexibility added to what we can do, what can be done with the Housing Trust Fund specifically. I don't believe, when I read it, I don't believe it addresses most of the funds currently that get to the Affordable Housing Trust are coming from CPC, which has its own restrictions independently, that the trust can only use funds in a manner that's allowable in terms of the sourcing of their funds. But this does provide flexibility to the extent, or would provide flexibility to the extent that the trust develops other sources of funding to be able to use those for to assist homeowners at a somewhat higher, and it's specified in here, somewhat higher income level than is currently allowable.
Bob, do you know if other towns are taking up the same thing this year? It reads like, Chatham's gonna do it, or Linz is gonna do it.
I don't know that. I actually think some other towns already have something that they've done.
Okay.
I'm not sure that this is word for word what they're doing, but I wouldn't be surprised, being that Ed has submitted it, that he's got it from some other time.
Michelle, did you have a question?
I think I understand. So it doesn't restrict it solely to low or moderate income.
It's actually expanding the base, I
Yeah.
guess, the way to, for eligibility.
So, for example, a new teacher that comes to town could qualify, for example.
I think you have to look at the numbers.
Whatever the number is.
I don't know what the numbers
No,
are.
I don't either. So teacher might be too high. But my whole point is that it could be somebody who is going to live in the community, work in the community. Yeah.
Right. Currently that is in a variety of affordable housing developments of different types, subsidized housing, such. That's a problem that actually comes up very frequently, is that people make too much money to fit to be able to get assistance, but not a lot in today's terms.
Mm-hmm.
He's using the word attainable, but it's an ongoing problem. He happens to be using 200% of area median income as his cap, apparently.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion?
Yeah, I guess, to me, this takes a small pool of money that is very inadequate right now, to spread it over more people. So I'm gonna vote against it.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Again, the motion is accept and adopt petition article, home rule petition, retainable housing, Article 46. Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Dana, you said you're no?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark?
Aye.
Okay, chair is an aye, so it's 6-1, and Dana is a no. Okay. We did
That's
our,
the only other complaint I have about the petition articles. We didn't get the wording on these until very late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And those people all had to have them in very early in the game. we can't change the wording on any petition articles, so we should at least get those articles real early and had time to have those people in before, give us better information.
Okay, so that gets us to promote the town of Harwich to the Chamber of Commerce, Article 48. Have we figured out where we are on free cash with this whole thing?
I'm sorry, can you
Did the
repeat that
selectmen
question?
vote this?
Yes, they did. It was,
What was their,
it's gonna be a raise and appropriate, it's not funded by free cash. It's gonna be within the budget.
Got a motion, Dana?
I guess on the one hand, that satisfies our kind of need or desire to put this into the operating budget. But to fund an article this way is a little unusual. I move we accept and adopt Article 48 to promote the town of Howard, $50,000 to be raised and appropriated.
A second.
All right. Move to accept and adopt Article 48, promote the town of Harwich. This is a customary article. Every once in a while, a number changes, but this is for $50,000. Discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to get clarification on that, on what you said. Does that mean that this is going to be added to sources and uses?
It's on the sources and
It's
uses.
now on the current sources and uses?
It is.
Another reason to
We
get
have some
current.
capacity. Do you have the final number on the capacity we have left after all the votes taken in terms of raise and appropriate?
That's what we're asking, what's left?
Could you clarify capacity?
The bottom line on sources and uses, how much is left over?
No, just the tax and the raise and appropriate.
Oh, sorry.
That thing's working away.
Yeah, I'd have to, I wouldn't want to calculate that on the fly. I would be more comfortable giving that to you tomorrow.
You can tell us this fits, right?
It does. They wouldn't be there if it didn't.
Okay, it fits. She can give us a number tomorrow, but it fits.
Yeah, the reason I'm looking for the number is more important to do with the cultural center than.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. You can get us that number tomorrow?
So as it stands now, I mean, when we looked at the overall sources and uses in general, including that, I thought you were looking for the levy capacity.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I have it at 59, 968, 291, but it's kind of changed around a little bit.
It was slightly adjusted to 59, 968, 291, rounded up, 12
Yeah.
cents.
That's what I have.
Yep.
And we spent 59, 495, 190, 151, which gives us about $473,000. We're gonna spend 50 now, and we should end up with 100,000 left.
If I compare all the sources to all the uses, the difference is a little over $279,000.
All right, so I have some different numbers.
I'm not sure how you're calculating it, so that would be worthy of a separate discussion.
Yeah, why don't you update that tomorrow?
I can provide them with the list. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're
Okay.
parsing,
Yeah.
I can't really.
All
I
right,
mean, we use some for our operating budget, and then we have to move the schools, and then we did some for the water department, wastewater budget. But I don't have anything other than what we're doing right now on this 50,000.
okay.
I'm not sure I understand the question,
All right.
but I'm sorry.
Kathleen says it'll fit. I'm taking her word for it at the moment.
Me too.
Any
I
further
agree.
discussion on this? This is Article 48, accept and adopt. We'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Bob? Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Chair aye, 7-0. Okay. Annual allocation 48, annual allocation for local cultural council grants. Estimated cost $4,000.
Did they put this as raise and appropriate, or did they use up more free cash?
No, it was all the three, the defray articles, for lack of a better word. The 20,000 for the library, the 50,000 for the promote the town of Harwich, and the $4,000 for the local cultural council grants are all through raise and appropriate for a total of $74,000.
We would have to, just as a housekeeping thing, change our vote if we're gonna do that on, the Chase and Howard Court Library. But on the $4,000, I see we have enough free cash to do that. That's the way we've generally done it.
All right, so what's your motion?
My motion is to accept and adopt Article 49, Article Council funding $4,000 to come from free cash.
A second.
Okay, moved and seconded, Article 49, which is the Cultural Council grants, accept and adopt from free cash. Discussion.
Just to re-clarify for people then, the motion uses a different source than the select board has currently.
That's what I understand.
That's why just trying to clarify.
I wouldn't want to put us out of balance, but at least from what we've been given so far, unless they use free cash somewhere else, I still show us a balance. The $50,000 we just raised and appropriated leaves with at least $40,000 left. So,
All right, we can always reconsider this if we get different
yeah,
information.
yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan? Michelle?
Aye.
Bob? Okay.
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Chair is an aye, 7-0. All right. Herring fisheries.
We have another article.
We got herring fisheries.
What's that?
We got herring fisheries.
We voted it.
We
Did we?
voted.
Did we vote that?
Yeah.
All right.
6-0, except for,
Okay. Article 51, what I have here is a placeholder article for town moderator electronic voting at town meeting. And
yeah, there's no.
that's all we have, so-
I would make no recommendation pending further information.
well,
In the selectmen's packet, placeholder was removed.
It's removed?
The article stays, but the placeholder,
well, it's now an article. It's not a placeholder. Did they write an article?
they have an Article 51,
Yeah.
to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sufficient sum of money to provide for the option of electronic voting at town meeting or take any action related thereto, but there is no dollar amount in their article in the packet.
Did they vote last night, Kathleen? You know?
There was question as to the amount, so, I'm
So why
not
don't
sure
we
if this, I don't remember, to be
So
honest.
I have an idea, Mr. Selectman. Why don't we vote to, as a finance committee, to just accept and adopt it, no money at all? And that way, we would indicate that we're in favor of electronic voting at town meeting. And,
We can do
there's
that.
a number in front of us and a funding source, we can reconsider it.
Is that your motion?
Hold on.
Yes, I move we accept and adopt.
In last night's packet, it says by request of the town moderator, not by request of the select board.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I have a motion to accept and adopt. Is there a second?
A second.
And does anybody have any idea what the cost of this is?
There was a very broad estimate that was mentioned, anywhere from 15 to 30,000, but that was just
Okay.
someone else mentioned. I have
Okay.
no idea.
All right. It's a simple motion to accept and adopt.
And that's the purchase, not rent?
I think there was discussion about lease, but I don't know if that was the only method and whether or not, really what the totals were. I didn't know about the article till the meeting, so
Surprise.
yeah.
When the last time I was at MMA, we looked at it, there's an initial cost which is higher than just to buy the little clickers and all those kind of things, and then there's an ongoing cost for your software licenses and so forth, depending on how many clickers you want.
Yeah, okay. Any further discussion? All right, we'll put it to a vote. The motion again is to accept and adopt Article 51, which is electronic voting at town meetings.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
All right, chair's aye, 7-0.
Did they get rid of Article 52?
Yeah.
Is there an Article 52?
Do you have?
There is an
Yeah,
Article 52 in the packet from last night.
What's it called?
Yeah.
Supplemental appropriation for Phase 3 Watershed Management Plan construction contracts. See if
It's a
the town,
transfer from, remember we voted earlier at town meeting to authorize, I want to say $6.5 million to put in the mains on Route 28.
Yep. Yep.
So that we could get to them, before they seal the road, we have to wait 5 years. Turns out that was a $1.5 million job instead, so they want to reauthorize the $5 million is left over. It's the way I read it now.
I would hold on that until we see some language and,
Yeah, I would agree.
it's too
but
big a
that's-
number just to sit here and say we think we heard it, so.
So I move no recommendation pending.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Dana, you're gonna update all your tracking stuff, right?
Yeah, do you want to vote on this one?
Which one?
52.
You too.
He just
I
moved
did-
to vote on 52. I think you wanted to table it. And he moved it.
Did you move it?
Dana, did you move
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
He wanted to move it, no recommendation.
I would just prefer we hold it till we get something back. I mean, I don't have anything.
All right, so we'd have to do it April 2nd.
Well, that's fine. We've got a lot of stuff due April 2nd, but, I don't even wanna put it before us if we don't have something.
Dana, do you want to withdraw or do you want to let it die on the table?
Yeah,
Let it die. So Dana, you're gonna update your spreadsheets and whatnot, okay?
yeah,
You're gonna send the initial tranche of your your votes and recommendations to Selectman's office, right?
yeah,
And then you're gonna develop the rest of it, and you're gonna hold it until next Tuesday when we meet.
yes,
And you'll circulate that to the members of the FinCom so we can comment on it, et cetera.
yep, just like before.
Okay, so next Tuesday, we said, make a note of this, next Tuesday, April 2nd at 6 o'clock at Channel 8, right? Mark?
Yes, in the community center.
Right, in the TV station, okay? So don't come here. Don't come here, this room's taken by somebody else, I don't know who's meeting here, but.
I promise I won't go there.
And
Okay, the other thing you should know is the motion meeting, which is a meeting where the town administrator, legal town council, chair of the board of selectmen, the moderator, and FinCom chair get together and walk through the warrant, reviewing what the actual motions will be. They've changed it a couple times. Now it will be April 12th, and I will not be here, so Bob is going to fill in for me.
April 12th.
Okay,
what time in the evening?
I think it's 11, it's like 11 o'clock, I don't know, I told you the
Yeah,
time.
something, I think it is.
What day is
Will
it?
they send those out electronically first?
Will they what?
Send those out electronically first?
Last year when I went, they were barely getting them together as we walked in the door, so, I don't know,
Usually.
maybe they will. We did all this good stuff tonight so they can,
I assume it has
They
to
get
be
a
a
jump on it, maybe.
public meeting. But
Okay.
only one representative from each one of these groups to, is.
Oh.
part.
Yeah, it's,
Only one person? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's not an open, I mean, it's not open, so. All right, anything else? All right, we're getting there, guys, we're almost there. It's not the way to do
good
it.
meeting tonight, good meeting.
Well, not the way we should do it, but we're almost there, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for all your work, Dana.
Yeah,
Right.
Dana, thanks.
If you looked at the article that had the changes to amend the bylaws 271, it started with -3. If you go back and read -1, -1 is the one that says that the selectmen will get the articles the second week of January, and the finance committee will get them 2 weeks after that. And they will be in their final form.
Okay,
That's the bylaw of the town.
I know, I understand that, but,
Yep.
all right, so we are
We
adjourned.
just missed.
Thank you. Good turn us up.
We're adjourned.